with fantasy drafts approaching, I did earlier videos zero RB build, then hero RB build, and now double hero RB build. I did a few mock drafts to see how my team would turn out. So double hero RB build, pick 2 out of 3 running backs first 3 rounds of your fantasy draft, and then you wait to the later rounds to fill out your roster. So first mock draft I did was second pick overall, Tyreek Hill. He's my number 2 player on the board. I know most people prefer CeeDee Lamb, but I believe Tyreek Hill will have a little bit of a better year than CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's still holding out in training camp, and he might get out of the gate a little bit slow, so I went with Hill at 2, then his teammate at the back end of the second round, which I think is a steal, to give Devon Achane, who I think has top 5 running back potential this season with his explosiveness to the open field and make big plays. So Achane to get at the bottom part of the second round is a great pick. Third round, Joe Mixon might have been a little bit of a reach, but for the video purposes, I took Joe Mixon here. Usually, it most likely would have been a receiver in that third round, because mostly that third round, there's not a lot of good running back options unless you're reaching or you want Josh Jacobs in that round. Fourth round, Michael Pittman Jr., I think decent value in the fourth round. Pittman had a good year last season. I know this year Anthony Richardson's back in the lineup, and we'll see if Richardson running a lot's going to take away from Pittman's production. But as a number 2 back-end receiver on your fantasy roster, I don't think it's bad. Fifth round, Mark Andrews, and I just keep finding Mark Andrews in the 5th round of these fantasy mock drafts, so I believe it's great value, because arguably Mark Andrews, he could put up a similar, even a better season than Travis Kelce and Sam Laporta, 2 tight ends who are going ahead of him in fantasy drafts. Then I fill out the flex spot with T. Higgins. I think Higgins can have a bounce-back season. Injuries to Burrow and Higgins last season in and out of the lineup cost him of having a good season. Flowers, I went with in the 7th round. I think it's good value for Zay Flowers. He's the number 1 wide receiver over there for the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, I believe Mark Andrews still the number 1 option in the passing game is Andrews at the tight end position. But receiver-wise, they don't have much going on. It's Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, once again, the top 2 targets in this Baltimore Raven offense. So for Flowers to be my 4th receiver, I think is great value. Then the 8th round, I went Chase Brown. Chase Brown, I think, has potential to be a solid running back this season. Him and Zach Moss most likely 50-50 splitting going into the season. Then 9th round, Xavier Worthy. If he's there in the 9th round, value for Xavier Worthy, where he's going to be starting. And I've drafted him a lot in these mock drafts, if you've been following the channel, where Worthy's going to be the number 2 wide receiver for this Chief team. It doesn't look like Rashee Rice is going to be suspended, but with Hollywood Brown out 4 to 6 weeks, he's going to step right into the starting lineup as Xavier Worthy. Other receivers over there have had opportunities. Sky Moore, the last couple seasons, Kadarius Toney haven't taken advantage of it, so Worthy's going to be a starter. Then 10th round, another rookie, Ladd McConkey, Los Angeles Chargers. He's going to be a starter as well for this Charger team, and he's got major upside, no doubt about it. When you're playing with a quarterback like Herbert, even though I know he's banged up, you're going to get some nice passes to catch, and I think that's what McConkey could do this season, and he's good value in the 10th round. Then 11th round, Gus Edwards of the Chargers as well. Gus Edwards, at minimum, is going to be short yardage goal line back, and to get him as my number 4 running back, I think is decent value in the 11th round, where Dobbins will mix in as well. And the quarterback position, I did punt, and if this happens where you wait late in the draft, you take 2 quarterbacks and you see which one pans out and could be a starter for fantasy owners. The 12th round, Matthew Stafford, where I think Stafford can have a great season. And to be honest, I would be comfortable going into the year with Stafford, where you got guys like Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams on that offense, Tutu Atwell, and DeMarcus Robinson, decent receivers as well. It's a good offense. Just the only thing with Stafford is injury concerns. And then Justin Herbert in the 13th round, where Herbert, for the majority of last season, he was a top 5 quarterback in points per game until the end of the year. It dropped off. So like I said, I got 2 options at the back end, punting the quarterback position, and you don't need to reach at quarterback, I believe, to still have a solid quarterback option. Like I said, Stafford and Herbert to get in the 12th and 13th round, I think is great value. Final roster, Matthew Stafford, Tyreek Hill, Michael Pittman, Devon Achane, Joe Mixon, Mark Andrews, T. Higgins. Then the bench, Zay Flowers, Chase Brown, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Gus Edwards, Justin Herbert. So I started off 2 out of 3 with Achane and Mixon. I think my receiving core is still solid. Have Pittman and Higgins in those other rounds. And also Mark Andrews to fall in the 5th round is great value. So this is how you want to build your teams. If you get your 2 running backs early, I would wait then to that 8th, 9th round range and start getting the backups. Because still to get Chase Brown, Gus Edwards is my backup running backs, I believe, is decent value where they went. And to have headliners like Devon Achane and Joe Mixon, who I still believe could be a top 12 option this season. I think I came out pretty decent in this draft, just maybe at the backup running back position. I would need a 5th guy, but like I said, quarterback, I went with 2 veterans and see which one would have a better season as the went on. So that second pick of double hero RB. Next mock draft I did was from the 5th spot, double hero RB. So I started off Bijan Robinson, and in a real redraft, I would go Bijan Robinson over Jamar Chase, over St. Brown, and over Jefferson, because Bijan Robinson, he's right there, my number 2-3 running back, where if you took Bijan over Breece Hall, I don't think it's the craziest of things, where they're right there in the rankings. So I started off Bijan Robinson, then Devon Achane, which in that mid-sec to late second round is just great value every time for Achane. Like I said, he's got home run ability, and he's got top 5 running back ability with his burst. And if he just gets a little bit more touches and catches the football a little bit more as Achane, he really could have a monster year. And last year, he already did average 8 yards per carry and just over 100 carries. Then Chris Olave, 3rd round, he really fell in this draft. Olave to me is a mid-second, late second round pick in fantasy drafts. And to get him in the 3rd round to start off, I like Olave there. 4th round, I think Stephon Diggs, a lot of people are down on him. But over there in Houston, I know they're going to spread the football out. I believe Nico Collins, Diggs, and Tank Dell, they're all great options as a number 2-3 wide receiver for your fantasy teams. Then Mark Andrews, once again, falling in the 5th round. Just great value. If Mark Andrews falls in that 5th round, like I said, he's right up there with a Kelsey and Laporte. And going 2 rounds later, Kyler Murray, 6th round, great value. I think he has a great season with Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, James Conner, Zay Jones, Greg Dortch. Solid offense. 7th round, I think Terry McLaurin, decent at the 7th round range. I know he's not the flashiest of wide receivers. I know he's not in the greatest of offenses, but maybe with the rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, he'll be more consistent. But Terry McLaurin is the 3rd, 4th receiver on your roster. You could do worse. Then I went back to the running back position after getting my 2 workhorses early. Javonte Williams, 8th round. Still think great value. He's going to be the starter there. And like I said, I know they got Jaleel McLaughlin, Samaje Perine, but Williams, I think, will be even healthier this season after last year coming off. The ACL was his first season back, and he wasn't 100%. Zach Moss, 9th round. Him and Chase Brown, most likely a 50-50 split. And Zach Moss, we saw last season. He had some big ball games for the Indianapolis Colts, and now he's going to get a good opportunity with Cincinnati. 10th round, Ladd McConkey, once again. And this is what I like doing at these back end of the drafts. Drafting the rookie or second-year wide receivers who have potential to break out, because those veterans, for the most part, you know what you're going to get from them, and they got a cap ceiling. So I go McConkey in the 10th round. He's going to start for Los Angeles, most likely. Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jaguars, he's most likely going to start as well, where we saw in the preseason game he was out there as a starter with Christian Kirk working as a 3rd receiver behind him and Gabe Davis. Zach Charbonnet last season, he didn't do much, but I believe he's got good potential and possibly breakout potential if Walker goes down or struggles with the new coaching staff. And then rounded off with Jalen Polk in the 13th round, where he could be a starter for this Patriot team. And this is going to be a lot of games where the Patriots are trailing early and often and going to have to pass a lot. And then I close it out with Jake Moody and the Buffalo DST. So the final roster, Kyler Murray, Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Mark Andrews, Terry McLaurin, Moody, Buffalo defense. And then my bench, Javonte Williams, Zach Moss, Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas, Zach Charbonnet, and Jalen Polk. So I believe it's a pretty well-rounded team. Just at that flex option, Terry McLaurin, he's going to be inconsistent at times. I went with the 2 running backs early in the draft. Then once again in the 8th round, I got Williams, Moss in the 9th. I think solid backups for fantasy owners. And then the youngsters with Zach Charbonnet, who don't have a cap ceiling. And a receiver, to get Chris Olave is my number 1 in the mid-3rd, I think was great value. Mark Andrews, always great value in the 5th. Kyler Murray in the 6th. It's a well-rounded team. Just the flex, I think, could be an issue for me, and possibly backup running back as well, with Zach Moss and Javonte Williams having injury concerns in their NFL career. But still, regardless, you get those 2 backs early, you just build a lot of depth, and you build up that wide receiver position. Or you could even go anywhere like I did in this draft, getting Andrews. And then the final mock draft I did with this double hero RB strategy. 10th pick overall, I went Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs, I think, has a great season. I know he's banged up right now, but you can't go wrong with Jahmyr Gibbs, I believe, in that 10th to 13th pick overall for your fantasy drafts. You know he's going to catch a ton of balls. I know David Montgomery, 13 rushing touchdowns last season, but I believe that number is going to go down, and Gibbs, he could bump that number up a little bit. Then I went Saquon Barkley in that second round. Saquon, I believe he's a top 6, top 7 running back coming into the season, but Barkley falling on the turn back 2-3 position, I think it's good value to get Saquon Barkley 15th overall for fantasy owners. I know his pass catching isn't going to be great, and in the red zone, Jalen Hurts, he might do the tush push even though Kelsey retired and take some touchdowns away. But I think Saquon Barkley, even as number 1 running back on your team, but to get him in number 2 running back, it's a great combo with Gibbs and Barkley. Then third round, I went Devonta Smith. It might be a little bit of a stretch to get Devonta Smith, but I think Devonta Smith, he has number 1 receiver upside. We saw it 2 seasons ago. We had a monster year. And there's games, no doubt about it, where Smith's going to have 9-10 points, and then games will have 25-30 fantasy points. Malik Neighbors, 4th round, I think good value. He's going to be the number 1 over there for the New York Giants. Encouraging sign. He already played in the preseason game, so that ankle injury wasn't anything serious. So I like Neighbors a lot this year. CJ Stroud, 5th round, always a good value to get one of the better young and up-and-coming quarterbacks in all the league. 6th round, I like Dalton Kincaid in the 6th round. I believe he could be a breakout tight end this season and possibly the number 1 option in the passing game for the Buffalo Bills, where Stephon Diggs, he's gone in a trade to Houston. Gabe Davis left in free agency, and it's pretty much a collection of Curtis Samuel, Shakir, and Keon Coleman, where I believe Kincaid's going to get a lot of targets and a lot of looks. Then Terry McLaurin once again, and Terry McLaurin in the 7th round, I think it's great value. I know he's been inconsistent the last few years, but it's been poor quarterback play for the most part for the Commanders. But with Jaden Daniels, maybe McLaurin will get things going. And then to round off the bench, 8th round, I went back to running back Austin Eckler. Last season, he was a first-rounder in fantasy drafts. And now in the 8th round, I believe him and Robinson will most likely be a 50-50 timeshare. To get him in the 8th round, I'd like it. Christian Watson, if he could stay healthy, we know he's an explosive wide receiver. So 9th round's good value for me for Christian Watson. 10th round, Chase Brown, where he's got breakout potential as well as Chase Brown, where we know he's already a good receiver out of the backfield. Now we'll see him between the tackles with him and Zach Moss. Who's going to have the upper hand, even though I believe that's going to be a split over there in Cincinnati. Brian Thomas, he's one of my go-to players in these latest rounds. Here's Brian Thomas Jr. If you could get this kid in that 10th, 11th round range with his upside potential, and Jacksonville put good stock in him taking him in the NFL draft in the 1st round, I think Brian Thomas could pay dividends. Rico Dotto, 12th round, I think it's a steal to have a potential starting running back. In worst case, it's 50-50, I believe, with him and Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield for the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Williams, 13th round. He might not be ready for week 1, but Mike Williams, number 2 wide receiver on a New York Jet team with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, where I still think Rodgers, he could play some decent football. I'm not saying he's going to put up MVP numbers or even be 100% coming off the Achilles, but Mike Williams is my 6th wide receiver. I think is good value. So the final roster, CJ Stroud, Devonta Smith, Neighbors. I know Smith ain't the number 1 wide receiver, but looking at the running back position, I really got 2 studs, I believe, in Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley. Neighbors, receiver 2. Then Gibbs and Barkley, like I mentioned. Dalton Kincaid, solid at the tight end position. Terry McLaurin, not the greatest of flexes, but this season maybe he could surprise people with a rookie quarterback who's got a good arm and could get the football down the field. Then Austin Eckler on the bench. Christian Watson, if he's healthy, I think he could be a big play potential receiver once again. Chase Brown, who I like coming into the year. Brian Thomas, Rico Dotto, Mike Williams. So like I said, I think I'm weak at the flex position, and I don't believe Devonta Smith is a true number 1 wide receiver. But sometimes in these drafts, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go running back early in this double RB build, and then wide receiver, you really got to plug away 3 out of 4 rounds getting wide receiver position. But like I said, Dalton Kincaid, I got it a good value in the 6. CJ Stroud, good value as well. And even Terry McLaurin in the 7th round, I don't think it was a bad pick to get McLaurin that late. And I rounded out the bench with some veterans and some younger players and potential starting running backs as well. So that's a few drafts I did using the double hero RB strategy. And to be honest, it's a good strategy way to do it, even though some of these drafts, the board didn't fall that way. You go 1-1 to start the draft with a receiver or running back. Then you get your second running back in that third round. Then you fill out the rest of your roster. So I think it's an interesting strategy. And all the strategies are pretty interesting going into fantasy draft. But for most fantasy drafts, I'm not going in there with a strategy. I'm just going to play the board. But I did these videos to see what type of teams I come out with and what the strategy would look like. So that's double hero RB build entering the 2024 fantasy football season.